What's up guys, I'm BTC. The roll queue will be live later on today, so in this video I'm going to run through all of the best heroes and team comps to use in the 2-2-2 system. In just a few short hours, both PC and console will be getting the new roll queue system, and this is going to coincide with the end of competitive Season 17. After that, there'll be a 2-week roll queue beta season that begins on August 13th and ends on September 1st. And then when that ends on September 1st, Season 18 will begin using the new roll queue system as well. It'll be the official first real season with the roll queue. Now, this is what the screen looks like over on the PTR right now because it updated last night, and it certainly appears that Sigma will also be available later on today with the live version of the game. In addition, there's been a lot of buffs and nerfs to quite a few characters. I've already talked about these at length in previous videos, so I'm just going to give you a very brief refresher. Ashe has a faster reload time, so her potential damage output is a little bit higher. Doomfist no longer has his reload interrupted by quick melees. Hanzo's Storm Arrow total was reduced from 6 down to 5. Moira did get some changes, but they ended up reverting it, so just to clarify, Moira will be the exact same as she is on the live version right now. Orissa's barrier cooldown was increased by 1 second. Reinhardt has a new passive that gives him 30% resistance to knockback effects, and while overall this is good, it actually makes him a lot more vulnerable to Roadhog's ultimate, so just keep that in mind, because you're not getting knocked back anymore, so you're taking a lot more of that damage. For Sombra, the duration of the hack was reduced from 6 down to 5, and the activation time on EMP was increased very slightly. Symmetra's teleporter had quite a few changes. It now lasts forever, but Symmetra can destroy it herself if she wants to. And while some of this is good, there is also drawbacks to it. I've talked about this again in a different video. I think the Symmetra self-destroying the teleporter should be much shorter cooldown than if the enemy destroys it. So if the enemy destroys it, have it be 12 seconds or so, but if Symmetra destroys it herself, it should only be about 5 seconds, and this would work the same way that Torbjorn and his turret does. Tracer's ultimate damage was increased from 300 to 350, Hammond's ultimate will now spread out a little bit further than before, and lastly, Brigitte has some pretty significant changes that would take too long to go over right now. Suffice it to say that you can't play the character the same way that you did before, and while she still might be usable in some situations, there are some serious problems with the character right now and the new design. So I'm gonna have to make another video that goes over all of that, and I'll explain it all in detail. Hopefully that video should be out in the next couple days. Alright, so now that you've caught up with all the hero balance changes, let's talk about the best team comps for the 2-2-2 roll queue system. There are pretty much 3 different comps that you're going to see again and again and again, and those are Bunker, Dive, and Standard. There will, of course, be some variation within these different comps. You're not going to see the same 6 characters every single time, but there are a few that will likely be played far more often than the others. Also want to point out that even if they add Sigma today, if they go by what they've done with the previous heroes, he won't be available for the first 2 weeks in competitive, which means the entirety of that beta season. But as soon as Season 18 starts, he should be fully playable in competitive. Alright, so starting out with what is probably the most powerful team comp at this point in time, and that is Bunker comp. This comp is built primarily around Orisa and also Roadhog, and this is an incredibly powerful synergy that they have together. This is a very strong defense comp, but it can also be used on attack, and a lot of people don't quite realize that. You can definitely use this Orisa Bunker comp on attack. Now, the Orisa Roadhog combo is one of the best in the game because Orisa can launch out that halt ability, and then Roadhog gets what is essentially a free hook on one of the enemies. Then you can pull him in, a little bit of follow-up damage, and then that enemy gets taken out, and you swiftly change the strength of the fight into your favor. The DPS most often used in Bunker comp is largely dependent on what type of map you're playing. In payload maps, you're most often going to see Hanzo and Widowmaker. On control maps, it's going to be Reaper and Mei. On the 2 capture point maps, you'll see a mix of those 4. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that those are the only DPS that get used in bunkers. At times, you'll also see Doomfist, McCree, Genji, or a Sombra. The most common healer combos you're going to see with the bunker are Ana and Baptiste or Zenyatta and Baptiste. However, Lucio and Moira can also work quite well, as it allows the bunker comp to reposition very quickly, which partially negates some of the inherent drawback of a bunker comp in that it's, a very stationary comp compared to a lot of the other stuff. More recently, it's been fairly common to see Roadhog being swapped out for D.Va, and there are two main reasons for this. The first is that if the map has high ground that needs to be contested, D.Va can do that, and the second is if the enemy team is running Reaper. D.Va is far better at dealing with the Reaper than Roadhog is, as Roadhog just tends to be an ult battery for him. In fact, you'll often see D.Va playing a lot more passively and closer to Orisa, so that if the Reaper does try to engage, all of his damage is eaten up by the defense matrix. I should also point out that the D.Va version of Bunker is going to be mostly useful in the upper bracket and somewhat less useful in the lower bracket. Another possibility will be swapping out the Roadhog or the D.Va for Sigma. While Sigma doesn't have the mobility that D.Va will bring, he makes up for it by having a lot more consistent defensive abilities. He gets that extra barrier that you can use in place of Orisa's when her gets destroyed. Sigma also has crowd control, he has a powerful ultimate, and solid damage. And I think the Orisa Sigma combo may very well find a place alongside the other two variations. The second most powerful team comp is Dive. The tanks can be any combination of Winston, D.Va, and Hammond. Each of the possible combos has their own strengths and weaknesses, but the best will almost certainly involve D.Va with one of the other two. The DPS used with this are often going to be Genji and Reaper, but certainly characters like Doomfist, Tracer, and Hanzo will also be used. It's usually dependent on what the map is and what the enemy team is trying to run and what you need to counter. The supports are most often going to be Lucio, Ana, Mercy, and Zenyatta. The strategy for Dive comp is the same that it's always been. It's a very aggressive comp reserved for the attacking side of the 2 capture point maps or the beginning of the hybrid maps or even some of the control maps. While it's not nearly as powerful as it once was, it's still a very strong strategy. The last team comp is Standard. This is the tried and true general purpose Reinhardt and Zarya combo. This is effective on most maps, whether it's attacking or defending. This is mostly going to be used in the lower bracket, but we'll still see some occasional use in the upper bracket as well. The DPS for this will likely vary the most among all of the different team comps, but you should still expect to see lots of Hanzo, Widowmaker, Reaper, and Mei. As for the supports, once more, you'll probably see the most variety in this team comp, but the top will likely be Baptiste, Lucio, and a lot of Moira. This is also the comp that you're most likely going to see Brigitte being used in, because as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the changes to Brigitte have created a lot of problems with the character, and the Reinhardt-Zarya combo is likely going to be the only one where Brigitte is actually a solid pick. It's possible that she could be used in the other team comps as well, but it just seems like the other healers will do such a better job that you're not really going to want to use her. So again, I'll talk about this in a different video. But now let's talk about the characters that are probably going to see a very low amount of use just in general. And those are going to be Soldier 76 and Ashe, who just really don't bring enough. I mean, Hanzo and Widowmaker are almost always going to be better picks, and if you need it, you can always use McCree as well if you need to deal with an enemy Doomfist or a Genji or a Tracer or something like that. But for Soldier 76 and Ashe, they're just lacking. You would also think that Junkrat would be good against Bunker, but he just also seems to be falling a little bit short. The general idea for this is, why waste time trying to break the enemy barrier when you could just either walk through it or go around it? Because of the stationary nature of Orisa's barrier, those tend to be better options than trying to hammer it down and break it all the time. Another hero that's going to have a hard time is Pharah, particularly when there are so many Widowmakers on the enemy teams. Even if Pharah has a Pocket Mercy, it doesn't matter. You can't heal through a one-hit. Symmetra is also struggling and will continue to do so until the necessary changes are made to the teleporter. Torbjorn may find some use defensively or in control maps, but I think it's going to be limited to just that. And lastly, Bastion still has the same problems that he has always had, and he might be good for some pirate ship stuff or maybe some cheese comp, but there's a really good chance that Bastion stays as the least played character in the entire game. So that is essentially what you can expect from the 222 roll lock that goes live later today. I do want to point out that Blizzard does plan on having a second round of the hero balancing that will likely occur within the next month or so. One of the things that they discussed was some big changes to Roadhog and making him into an actual tank instead of the bruiser that he is now. So now we finally have a permanent end to GOATs. So which of the new comps do you like the most? And also, what role do you plan on playing the most when the 222 roll queue goes live? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.